of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good to see everybody here this evening. Go ahead and call the roll.
Trustee Spurling. Here. Trustee Lee.
Here.
Trustee Heinz. Trustee Youngerman.
Here.
Trustee Marisak.
Here.
Trustee Bond.
Here.
And we're all here this evening. Moving on, first item this evening is public comment. This is a 2-minute opportunity if there's a member of the public that would like to address the board. I don't believe we have anybody here this evening. So I'll move on to a presentation that we have this evening, the Kendall Area Transit.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me come and speak to you. My name is Paul Lalone, and I am the director of Kendall Area Transit. I'm with the Voluntary Action Center. We're a nonprofit transit agency that operates the Kendall Area Transit program for Kendall County on behalf of Kendall County and the Kendall County communities. I'm here tonight to give you a presentation, tell you what we're about, and hopefully have Montgomery come and join the system, being as it's a dual county. Part of it is outside of PACE's jurisdiction, so that's hopefully where we can step in and fill a service gap. I'm going to try and work this. Generally, my presentations are probably more interactive than they should be. I'm a part-time adjunct, and I know my students will fall asleep unless I'm interactive with them, so. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay.
I don't know where it went.
Was it a,
Yeah.
if you open PowerPoint from the start menu, it'll show as a recently opened document.
There you go.
Okay, and now go up to,
I swear I wrote something.
There you go.
There it is.
and go to slideshow. Slideshow.
There it is.
Keep going. From beginning. And
Do I use this then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a number, 877. I go for CAL. We're a community public transportation system.
Check and make sure that there's a switch to turn it on.
It is on.
Hey, Debbie's here. Perfect.
The remote's
Yeah,
not working.
it's always the case.
or you could just say advance this,
Well,
and then we will.
In theory. Or if it's this one that's not.
I brought my notes if you don't mind. I want to hold up the meeting. But I guess first thing we'll talk to is, what's that?
There it goes.
All right, there you go. Thank you. Okay, when we think about public transportation, first thing you think about probably is a fixed route. Well, right now, like in PACE, we don't operate a fixed route yet. I'll get to that in a little bit, but that'll be further down the line. The main thing what we do is what we call paratransit services. And paratransit is just a fancy word for dial-a-ride. Dial-a-ride is where somebody gives us a call, we put them into the schedule, and then we go pick them up, take them where they need to go, whether it's the doctor's office, to shopping, or to work necessarily. So we have schedules and routes, but not a set route every day. It's a little different every day. So what is CAT is a community-centered partnership, truly is. Starts with the Voluntary Action Center as a nonprofit operator, and then all the communities within Kendall County. And then it's spearheaded by the county because they're the grant recipients. Some of the funding that we get those are the fancy terms. We just get money from FTA. And the biggest is really the Downstate Operating Assistance Program, unfortunately named DOPE, but that's where we get our DOPE funds. That's a state of Illinois term, too. That's where most of the grant money comes from. It's 65% reimbursement from the state of Illinois with the other federal funds that are in there. And the biggest thing is really that makes these funds possible is local match. Now, where do we get the most local match? Is from the communities that contribute to the funds, who feel the service is necessary for the community. Without the local match, CAT would be a non-starter, because the way it works, VAC goes into, spends the money and then reincurs it. The local match really makes CAT operate. So the service itself, I already mentioned the Dial-A-Ride. We recently, a little over a year, just started doing the Park and Ride for the Village of Oswego. That's another part of our service area. Who can ride? For the Dial-A-Ride, it's anybody who's a Kendall County resident. The Park and Ride is different. Whoever shows up and gets on the bus can ride. But with the Dial-A-Ride, you have to be a Kendall County resident, and you register first. Types of service for the Dial-A-Ride are curb to curb, door to door. Curb to curb is we pull up in front of the house, somebody can get on easily, and then we take them where they need to go. Door to door is a little bit extra help that they may need assistance with a lift, they're in the wheelchair, or they just have a walker or cane. They just need a little extra assistance, and the driver goes out and helps them. So our service area is, it's a little bit all over, but all of Kendall County. We'll go as far north as 88. There's several doctor's offices, and then the hospital that's up that way. South Minooka, we just started going into Morris. We just got a little minivan, especially parts of the southern half of the county like to go there. East, we go about Route 59 in Joliet Plainfield area, and then downtown Sandwich is about far west as we'll go. So our hours, 6 to 7, Monday through Friday, except certain holidays. Fares are either $2 to $7, depending, and there's differences if it's an in-county, out-of-county trip, if you're door-to-door, curb-to-curb. Types of trips, pretty much anything. Whatever people need to use the service for is why we exist. Of course, the first thing comes to mind is always medical and jobs. Those two are the bulk of what we do. But after that, it's social, recreational. Education is growing huge, especially with the Waubonsie Community College, which I'll get into in a little bit too. There's a huge demand for that. And then, of course, just shopping trips. And we don't mean just going to like Kay Jewelers, getting a new diamond ring, I mean like essential shopping trips. Need to go get food, otherwise they wouldn't have a meal for the week or so on. The Park and Ride services the BNSF line. We just expanded last year. It went from 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. We were able to do 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. That was one of the positives of why Oswego wanted to switch and join CAT to, we were able to expand the services through that way. And then they restructured their fare system a little bit. So, just to show the system growth, we've only been operational since 2010. Since that time, the very first year of operations, we were transporting about 30 rides a day. Now we're well over 100 rides a day, and that's just the Dial-A-Ride. When you average in the Park and Ride, on peak days, we can get up to 160, 170 riders a day. And that's limitless of where we're going so fast. So, again, just a little bit of recap to show you where we've been, where we're going. That first year, we had about 300 registered riders. Peak days, about 30 rides a day with 4 buses. We traveled about 230 miles. Today, like I said, about over 100 rides a day for the Dial-A-Ride, about 50. 2,000 registered riders just up today for now. Peak days, 120. That's really the Dial-A-Ride when you average in the Park and Ride too, up to 170 like I mentioned. 8 vehicles is now the norm, and we're averaging anywhere between 1,000 to almost 2,000 miles a day, just taking people all over. Just some of the stories, just to let you know, families stay together. I've gotten multiple things of why you need this service. Well, we don't need to put Grandpa in the nursing home necessarily. Grandpa could stay with us because I don't have to take off work to take him to the doctors. I can rely on Kat to go ahead and do that for me. Work access has increased, both directly and indirectly. Indirectly, just again, people don't have to take the day off work to go help their parents or their kids, to take them to work instead or to the doctor. And then, of course, easier access to medical and all sorts of other sorts of places. And then it helps people stay engaged in the community. So the future, I already mentioned, this says near, this I should have updated, but we're already going to Joliet, Morris, Sugar Grove, expanding the Sugar Grove through Waubonsie Community College. It's been a huge demand. About a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, we just started delivering to Sugar Grove. That first semester, we gave about 86 rides. This past semester, we've already given over 600 rides. And the semester isn't even just hit halfway point. So just the incredible growth of Waubonsie alone. And we will be getting more fleet. Right now we have a vehicle fleet of 10. We have 2 more coming in May, according to IDOT, knock on wood. And then November we should be getting 5 more buses, according to IDOT. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to come here today, was to try and make sure I can allocate that fleet to, if Montgomery wants to come on board and help serve the community with public transportation in the Kendall County side, that those fleet can be assigned to that. And then the other thing I mentioned before, we don't have fixed route yet, but that is, we're in the initial stage of collecting data. So wherever we determine where the fixed route is going to be, all contributing community members will have an active say in helping us to develop those routes. So if they need to go by the brand new Sam's Club, well then we definitely want to make sure that we can get that there if that's a priority for Montgomery. And schedules. So there's all the contact info. And again, I want to thank everybody for letting me come here, present, let you know what CAT is. I know it's been a while since CAT had first come here, about 4 years or so I didn't know if anybody was even aware of it or if they did know. Thank you for letting me come and share it and let you know about it.
Just a quick question. From DOPE from the state of Illinois, are you reimbursed by the state for how many people are in Kendall County or how many towns are using it?
No, it is based on how much you spend. So if we spend $1, DOPE reimburses us 65 cents. We just have to come up with 35 cents to match that.
Okay.
Could I ask for a clarification on the park and ride schedule? It sounds like it might be more convenient than it used to be.
I would think so. Just adding in extra routes definitely makes it a little more convenient from that end.
Are you providing midday service, early afternoon service?
Early afternoon, first pickup is 5. I guess that's not really early afternoon, but I think that's a little earlier than the old routes. I don't remember exactly, but just in the AM and then early, late afternoon, early PM.
What's the morning window?
I want to say 6 AM drop-off up in Aurora is the first, and then the last is 8, I want to say. So about a 3-hour window. And very similar in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. If I have my numbers up there, I'd be happy if anybody wants to give me a call, talk to me, or has any other questions afterward. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. Okay, moving on. The consent agenda, I'll read all 4 and entertain a motion for approval. Minutes of the village board meeting of March 10th, accounts payable through March 18th, accounts receivable report for February, and the request by the Montgomery VFW to hold their Buddy Poppy Days. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Move. Second by Trustee Hines. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Lee? Trustee Hines, go ahead first. Trustee,
See, you can't give it
Trustee
up.
Heinz. Trustee Youngerman.
Yay.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling. Yes. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
That carries 6-0. Moving on, items for separate action. We'll take these, we'll discuss these at one point, but we'll discuss these together, but we'll approve them separately. So item A and B, the recommendation of the Plan Commission on PC 2014-002Z. It's the update of our zoning map, and then the second one is the ordinance approving that. With that, I'll ask Rich to summarize.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Plan Commission did approve the 2014 zoning map at their last meeting. There was a series of special uses and amendments that were made over the course of last year, and this is pretty standard procedure. It's required by the state that each municipality approves a new zoning map each year. So this has been updated and reviewed by staff and recommended approval by the Plan Commission.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for staff on this? If there aren't any, I'll entertain a motion to approve recommendation of the Plan Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling. Yes. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
And that carries 6-0. Moving right into ordinance 1611. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by, well, motion and second. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Spurling. Yes. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Excellent. Moving on to item C this evening, which is recommendation of the Plan Commission on PC 2014-005Z. And again, I'll turn it over to Rich.
Thank you. This is also an item that has been reviewed by the Plan Commission on a number of occasions. This includes two items. One is the temporary sign ordinance for the village. It allows a business to have a temporary sign for 15 days with a permit. This would be for community events, non-for-profit type events. I believe that this has been talked about with the village board in the past, but this amends the text for that, as well as the long ongoing discussion about small community library boxes. This is an item that has been also reviewed by the Plan Commission. These kiosks would be located on either private property or HOA or SSA property throughout the village. There are certain standards in terms of size and setbacks, but this has been recommended by the Plan Commission for approval tonight.
Excellent. Is there any comments or questions from the board?
I might add that there's a series of ordinances that go along with this in terms of definitions, accessory uses, and then the text itself. So there's a series of 3 ordinances that go along with this.
You can act on all of them at once if you wish.
So first, we'll take the recommendation of the Plan Commission. Is there a motion?
A motion to approve?
To approve the recommendation of the Plan Commission, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Bond. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling. Yes. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
And that carries 6-0. Move right into item D this evening, which is ordinances 1612, 1613, and 1614. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve? Second.
Moved in second. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling. Yes. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Moving on, item E this evening, which is the task order approval of the rehabilitation of Well 8. And I'll ask Engineer Wallers for his report on this.
Thank you, President Brawley. Staff tonight is requesting approval of task orders for Well 8 rehabilitation. Primary item tonight is the purchase of a new motor for Well 8. Recall that the current motor that was in Well 8 was installed new in 1977, so we got 37 years service out of that motor. Pretty good service life, but it did fail back in December. We've been evaluating alternatives for replacement of that motor. We looked at rebuilding it, buying a rebuilt motor, new motor from another manufacturer, and a new Byron Jackson motor. The recommendation from staff is to purchase the new Byron Jackson motor. It's slight more expensive than a rebuilt motor, but if you also recall, Well 8 is a single well facility on the east side, and we don't have redundancy like we have out on the west side or at the main plant. Therefore, reliability is a key component for us at that point. We think we're going to get the best value on the long haul from a new motor there. We got excellent service life from our old Byron Jackson motor, so that's kind of what led us back to that. I would say in the future, we may consider other manufacturers and other options, and we have used rebuilt motors in the past, but in this case, we just felt like the new motor was better value. We are having the pump rebuilt. That was also new in 1977. It's a bronze impeller pump. Well number 8 is a deep well. It's 1,378 feet deep. We do have some sand entrained in the water in well 8, so normal impellers can wear too quickly, so that's the reason why we have spent the extra money on the bronze impellers. They've held up very well. We've rebuilt that pump, I think, 3 times, so we'll be rebuilding it again. We're going to replace 2 impellers to put it back into service. So this is the final piece of the puzzle. There were 2 other task orders to basically get the material out of the well and then clean it out and televise it and get it ready for service. So again, tonight we're asking for approval, I guess, official approval, all 3 task orders, but specifically, I wanted to get your approval on purchase of the new motor. That's $114,000 just for the motor. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Pete. Any questions from the board?
I have a question.
Teresa?
The delivery schedule confirmation, is that still 5 to 6 weeks out once we approve it, or?
We believe so. Yes, we talked to the vendor, Lane Christensen. They believe that's still valid. We always take that with a bit of a grain of salt because we had seen delays in the past, but right now, that's what they're telling us.
Thank you.
I guess I've said it before, I can't believe these things last 40, 50 years, but the $55,000 that was paid to Lane in today's bills, is that phase 1 and phase 2? And you're asking for phase 3?
Well, I think my understanding is that we've discussed task orders 1 and 2 with the board. We just hadn't brought them forward for final approval. So just to tidy up everything at one time, I included them all in this packet. But some of that work has been done. We needed to get the well, or the pump and motor out so we can evaluate to find out what to do. So it really had to be done, and we tried to do it as timely as we could. So that's kind of the overall. One other thing I should mention is we did move some items that we were going to work on in FY14. We moved them into FY15 to create room for this project in our current capital budget or budget. So 10 and 13 will have to actually be rehabbed in 15, fiscal year 15, which will be after May. And we moved some maintenance that we were going to do on the ground storage tank and the Fairfield tank into 15 to create that space so that we had money to do the project this year. So, just so that we could make it work.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Is there a motion for approval of the task order?
So moved.
Moved and second. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Bond?
Yes.
Trustee Spurling?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Heinz?
Thank you.
That carries 6-0. Moving on to item F this evening, which is Resolution 2014-005, supplemental MFT funds for salt purchase. And I'll ask Justin for a report on this.
Thank you, President Brawley. This is being brought forward to the board. We have been working for approximately 4 months on our MFT audit. We had the auditors out here in, I think it was August of 2013. And as such, what was approved by the board, the original resolution, we went over that original resolution. And so in order to tie everything up, we need this supplemental resolution for the additional $2,000.
And it was correct that Mike was going to buy salt at 300 a ton, and we never did buy it, right?
That is my
Correct.
understanding, correct?
Yes, okay.
So this is the additional expenditures on the 120% of our original order? Am I understanding things correctly?
This is actually from 2010. We went over in 2010 when we, this resolution is for 2010.
Oh, geez, okay.
The 2013, 2014, we did have enough in there for our 120%. So
This is just housekeeping.
it is just housekeeping.
Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
And that carries 6-0. Moving on to item G this evening, which is the award of a contract to Conley Excavating, Superior Excavating Company for the Boulder Hill Water Main Improvements, Contract B, in the amount of 2.5-ish million. With that, I'll ask Engineer Wallers for his report. Or,
Thank you,
I
President
didn't want to say
Brawley.
the whole thing.
So this is what we would consider Contract B for the Boulder Hill improvements. This is the element that is going to be funded with a EPA low-interest loan. It so happens the low bidder is the same contractor that we had for Contract A. It's the Conley Superior joint venture. They performed on a very high level for us on the first phase, so we're very confident that they'll be able to complete this as expeditiously as they did Contract A, so that's good news. This evening, what we're asking for is award of this contract contingent upon approval from IEPA. So the process will be, if this is awarded by you all, then we submit that down to Springfield for authorization to get our low-interest loan. They'll issue the loan in amount consistent with the bid and some contingency, and then that'll be the funds that we'll use to construct Contract B. You'll note that the project came in quite a bit below engineer's estimate. Now, this project has evolved a little bit from when we started it back in, I can't remember now the exact year we started, but recall that we had public hearings, a couple of different public hearings, and one of the things we heard were a couple streets that had been left off the original proposal. Those were Chatham and Surrey. We did add those in to this bid to include those in because we felt after review and talking to the folks there that they were worthy of inclusion. They had a number of water quality complaints, past complaints that didn't show up when we did our survey, after the problems we had. So anyway, those have been added in. The original preliminary estimate was around 2.7 million. So we're still below that, even with those additions, so that's good. We didn't want to go into the EPA project plan with too low a number because once we authorized that, if we came over it, we wouldn't be able to get a loan. So our estimate, we knew going in was a little strong, but we only are going, obviously, we're going to do the project for what the bid is. So that's kind of by way of a little bit long-winded explanation of the process. But the good news is we have a good contractor and we have a very aggressive bid. So, staff gives a strong recommendation to accept that bid contingent upon EPA approval and move forward. So I'll leave it at that and answer any questions.
Any questions? And this Contract B and the alternates, will that be completed this calendar year, you think, if we get the loan?
We believe so. Sometimes there, depending on how soon we get our loan authorization, we'll certainly start this year, and whether or not we'll complete all the restoration will be a question we'll just have to wait and see. So it just really depends on how fast we get our authorization out of IEPA.
Okay.
Is there a timeline for that?
No, there's no published timeline. It is based on their availability to review the documents.
All right, is there a motion to approve the contract?
So move.
Moved by trustee Hines,
Second.
second by trustee Youngerman. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Hines.
Yay.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes?
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Mayor, can I add one more thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've been fortunate in getting pretty aggressive bids on contract A and on contract B. So as we near completion of contract B or we get further in, we're going to reevaluate our situation to see if there's additional funds from our savings that we could possibly use for a contract C. So once we have a better idea, it'll be our intent to bring that back to the board for discussion. As you may know, we rate our streets throughout the village in terms of breaks per mile to determine whether or not they are good candidates for replacement at this time. So we know that we'll have other candidates in Boulder Hill that may be appropriate to repair. So as things progress, we'll come back to you either at a committee meeting or a board meeting and give you some additional information, and you can decide if you want to pursue that or not.
Excellent. And just to be clear, any contract C would be Boulder Hill water main
Yes,
work.
it'd be only targeted mains, again, just to try to get ahead of the main breaks in Boulder Hill, and do as much repair out there as we can.
Okay. Excellent. Move on to item H this evening, which is a waiver of bid and award of contract to Fulton Technologies. And turn it back over to Engineer Wallers, I think, on this one.
This item is at the direction of the village board to get the emergency warning siren in place as quickly as possible for the far west side of the village. We went direct to the village's current vendor that does the maintenance on improved our other siren and done other work on our sirens in the past for a price quote for installation of a new siren. So it'll be the new technology. It's the replacement for the P50, which we have at 2 locations. It's now called the T135. Significance of that is that it's a solid-state unit. It runs on AC and DC power, and it can be operated on battery backup. So it comes with a battery backup unit. The install price is either, I think, $35,500 or $38,500, depending on if you get a wood pole or a metal pole. I guess staff would probably lean towards the metal pole, but that's an item for discussion this evening as well. The location will be on village property on Dixon Road, where we have a targeted future well site and treatment facility. And there's just a basic layout of what we might see in the future out there. It's shown near Dixon Road. That's to simplify getting power to the siren. It does take a 200 amp, or no, 400 amp service. So, it does require some electric, and that's the easiest power feed that we have. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
And if you guys will recall, this is funds that are budgeted in FY15, or at least it's currently in the budget. And I talked with a number of you about jumping the gun on this a little bit, get authorization to proceed before that budget's approved, so that way we can get that up quicker time frame. So, and it turns out I don't know if it's in this report, but I think we heard a few weeks ago that it's like 6 to 8 weeks maybe before we even get this.
Well, the initial report was it might be as much as 16 weeks before we got the siren, because they don't stockpile them any longer. They're manufactured as ordered. However, I did talk to the manufacturer, which is American ASM. I can't remember what it stands for, American Siren Manufacturer, I think. And they said that right now it's probably more of the 5 to 6 week time frame. So if we get into the rotation now, we may get fortunate and get our sirens sooner. So it's just kind of a cyclic thing when they're producing these, and they have other sirens that they manufacture, obviously, too. So. But it's going to take some time to get the delivery.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Should we deliberate the metal or the wooden pole, or just decide on metal?
And what's the lifespan of the wooden pole? At some point, what's the lifespan of the siren, and what's the lifespan of the pole?
Yeah, I mean, we've got wood poles on I think on our other poles, Dan, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I think they'll have a fairly long lifespan. You know, I don't know if I can even answer the question, Doug.
Sorry.
I think that either one would give you good service. I suspect the metal would be just a little more resistant to the elements than the wood pole would be, but certainly the wood poles will last a long time.
I would second Stan's motion for metal pole.
Well, is there maintenance costs with the metal pole, or is it metal? It's,
It's galvanized steel.
so,
Um,
no
I suppose-
painting.
Well, I mean, if the coating was damaged or the galvanizing was scratched, I suppose you could see some, corrosion. You'd have to deal with it, but generally, it's pretty low maintenance.
So I would move that we proceed with the metal pool.
Second.
This is weird. Is that to approve the,
Oh.
you make that motion with the approver of the waiver of bid? and
With the siren, yes,
Okay.
please.
Second by Lee.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
And that carries 6-0. Thank you. Moving on, items for discussion this evening. Item A is a request for a liquor license at 1835 Douglas Road.
Typically, the chief first.
Okay. And with that, I'll kick it over to Chief of Police.
We have a person interested in purchasing Randall Liquors, so at this time, Attorney Anderson will send him a letter, and he will come in and get fingerprinted and fill out the background investigation, and we'll be back in a couple weeks, either at the second one in April or the fourth, for his business plan to explain to you what he'd like to do with that business.
And just to be clear, this is a, excuse me, this is a new corporation, which means that you have that discretion to approve or not approve at your will, so you can decide yes, maybe, or no, and that's why we bring them in for a plan. You have had occasions where corporations have just changed hands, the stock ownership. You don't get any approval over that, other than, that they're not criminals or something, the background check. But in this case, you'll have the ability to just say yes, no, or maybe about whether or not there should be, a continued liquor presence over there. But as Dan said, first, we'll bring some background information. He'll present his plan to you.
Okay. So if he was to come and buy the Randall Liquors and keep it open as a and keep it open as a Randall Liquors, then we wouldn't actually,
You wouldn't have anything to say about
Okay.
it. Dan would have something to say about it as far as whether or not the new owner of that corporation qualifies. But since the corporation owns the liquor license, you wouldn't have anything to say about that. But because it's not going to be the same corporation, liquor licenses are non-transferable, therefore you do have something to say about it.
okay.
All right?
So if there isn't any other questions on that, we'll hear from them at the next few meetings. Okay, move on to item B this evening, which is a sales tax referendum calendar and political activities discussion. With that, I'll ask our attorney, or,
Justin first, or right to me?
I'll talk for just a second here. Based upon the consensus reached at the last meeting, we did want to bring forward the calendar, and that is in the packet tonight for you. And then, yes, Steve is going to go over, we thought it was important to go over some of the things that you as the board and us as staff can and can't do, so.
Thank you. And I think you've heard quite a bit of this before, but we thought it bears repeating, and so we prepared the memo. It's really an update memo, but I wanted to speak with you in person about it as well and answer any direct questions that you might have. The basic concept, though, is fairly simple and straightforward, which is that no monies, no employees of the village, no asset of the village can be used to advocate for or against either a political candidate or a political proposition. This is obviously not a candidate, this is a proposition. So once you make the decision to put this on the ballot by acting pursuant to ordinance, your role as trustees is done, and so is the village's role, for the most part. What the "for the most part" means is, if you want to distribute factual information, you're entitled to do that. You can speak in a factual manner, or the village can, and you up here, sitting in these seats, can speak in a factual manner about the proposition. But that's really it. If you want to advocate, you cannot do that when you're using village funds, when you're using village facilities. You can't use village employees or staff time. You can't pressure village staff to volunteer, their time, their off time. If they want to, that's up to them, but there can be no even question about the need to do that. They are free to do nothing in regards to a referendum. So that's the important thing to remember. Now, step two, you are individuals. You have not checked at the door your right to exercise your First Amendment rights as far as this referendum is concerned. Therefore, when you are not sitting in this room acting, as the village board, you're free to do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, do whatever you want, and advocate in any way that you feel is appropriate with your own personal assets, with your own personal volunteer activities. You can serve on whatever committees, you can donate money, you can raise money, you can do whatever you want as long as you're doing it in your personal capacity, not in the capacity as the village board, okay? So those are the two things. The one thing that oftentimes gets confused, and if you read my memo, you might even get confused in my memo, is can we use our titles? Can the mayor say, I, Mayor Matt Brolly, or I, village president, mayor, I can't get away from mayor. Can I, the village president, endorse this proposal? Can trustee Youngerman say, I, trustee Youngerman, I endorse this proposal? I believe you can, as long as you're not doing it with village money, with village assets, with the village, sitting here where you're acting in your official capacity. I'll remind you, a few years ago, Trustee Kazmarek used to put out a monthly newsletter, and it was called Trustee Kazmarek's Newsletter. But it advocated for all sorts of things that he believed in. But at the very bottom, there was also a disclaimer that said this wasn't being paid for by village dollars, and it wasn't endorsed or approved by, the village board or the village staff. It was personally his own thing. But he certainly used his title because it is his title, or it was at that time, and it is your title presently. So you can use that, I believe, without violating any of these rules. I will tell you, some other organizations prohibit that, but they don't do it by state law, they do it locally. So I know in particular the Chicago Public Schools prohibit their board from ever saying anything like, I, the chair of the Chicago Public School System, support X, Y, or Z. But they do that by their own ordinances, and you don't have that right now. You could if you wanted to, and then I would reverse what I'm saying. But at present, you have the absolute, I think, right to do that as long as you're not spending village dollars, assets, or energy to do it. So that's kind of my long and short of it, unless there are questions.
Excellent.
So we can put this on a referendum then, for the November election?
Yes, and you can vote on that, and then once you voted, assuming it passes, then it will be on the ballot, and then the village board's job is done, and the village staff's job.
I think that's the best thing to do, is put it on a referendum. That way, if they want a tax, let the people vote for it, not the board.
Yep.
That's my opinion on it.
Okay.
So.
When's the
gonna make a
latest we can
motion,
vote
let
on
Put it
that?
on a referendum?
Not tonight.
Oh,
It
not
was
tonight.
just for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
When's the last time we can,
Put it on?
yeah,
August 18th, it says in
Okay.
Jeff's memo.
all right,
Yeah,
thank you.
last date to pass resolution.
And I think per this schedule, we'd look to approve this on May 12th,
On May 12th, yes.
because you can only have a certain number of questions on the ballot, and we don't want to get bumped.
3.
Correct.
Is that, and I meant to ask you this outside of a meeting, but since we're in a meeting, I'll just ask you, is that countywide, is it per, like, how is that divvied up?
It could be countywide, or it could be just the local municipality. The problem is as soon as it hits 3 for your area, whether that was 3, 2 that came from outside, and then another one that came from someplace else that overlaps, you could be out of luck. That's why you want to be careful with that. I know it has been a strategy in some communities in the past to actually put a couple of fairly nonsensical questions on the ballot to prohibit other questions from being on the ballot.
Then you should have it put on as the Village of Montgomery then, right? Residents.
It will only go to Village of Montgomery residents.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. Any other questions on this? And we will be talking about this again at a future meeting. Thank you. All right, moving on. Is there any new or unfinished business to come before the board this evening?
Yes,
Teresa?
something, please. I wanted to talk with the board about this. I had actually questioned a budget item under the police department, and the chief and the deputy chief were kind enough to meet with me. I am not completely sold on this lieutenant position, and as I said, the chief and the deputy chief met with me. I ended up with a whole packet of information, basically the background that they sent over, which I think it was very helpful. It laid out a lot of the work that is being done, that needs to be done, and how it would be divided. My concern is we would then have 3 people, and our department is 26 full-time, correct?
Yes,
26 full.
although one is on injured reserve.
Okay. My reservation is I don't know that our police department is large enough to have 3 people in an administrative role. That was my main concern, and then, of course, we have the salary, so we start to get a little bit top-heavy. I was hoping that you all would have had the opportunity to at least have this offered to you and have it put in the notes, and that we could talk about it a little bit. But I wanted to put it out there that I have reservations about this, and so I did question it, and they were very kind to meet with me for quite some time. So I don't even know if we can have a discussion because the other board members haven't seen all the information.
What might be beneficial is if, Chief, if you can provide us with that information, in the notes this week, and just remind staff that if you pass out information to one board member, pass it out to the rest of them, or at least include it with the notes so we've all had it. If it's okay with the board, we'll get that information, maybe add this to the April 14th. That's our next board meeting as a discussion item. I know, are we having the first reading of the budget that evening? Okay, and we can still make changes to it at that time, or is that too late? Until it's approved. Okay. So unless there's any other conversation on it tonight, that's our next available meeting, and we'll discuss it at that time, after you've had a chance to review the information. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, hearing none. Next village board meeting is April 14th at 7 p.m., and you can see all the others there. There's no executive session this evening, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Move?
Second?
Second.
Trustee
Take the roll,
Hines?
please.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Bond?
Yes?
Trustee Spurling?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
And we're adjourned. Thank you.